What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Risky Ryan Trades. Well, it's the last day of November. It's going to be December. We're going to get that Santa Claus rally, I think. And so we're going to be going over what I think are the best buys going into December. We're also going to be going over all of the monthly close, the monthly charts, monthly candles for all of the major indexes, precious metals, crypto, stocks, you name it. We're going to be getting a zoomed out, big picture, 30,000 foot overview of the entire market. So buckle yourself in. I'm going to try to make this less than an hour long, but it is probably the most important video, probably the most important thing that I do every month. So if you could, please hit that like button because I put a lot of work into these videos, and you get to have a little fly on the wall sort of peek into my mind what I'm thinking when I look going into this next month and really as we gear up to go into 2026. So let's start with the SPY, the S&P 500. You can see here we made it through and closed above the arc. This is the Gann arc. We also had a nice bounce off of and rejection off the point of control and the 1.272 fib, meaning that next month, perhaps we could make our way up to the 1.618 at 7,100. That would be a gain about 4% in 1 month. Not too bad. Now let's take a look at the Qs. Same thing. On this one, we're closing inside of the arc. A similar gain, we were able to do that. The next level would be about an 8%. So the Qs, if we have a bullish December, we could have some NASDAQ outperformance, which would mean there would be tech outperformance, which would mean there'd be semiconductor, AI, probably crypto outperformance as well. But what about the Russell? Small caps. This one could have a real monster move. Could have a 10% move if we get up to actually closer to about 11% move as we get closer to the 1.272 level. That would put it at 272 on the IWM. Tech, that would also be about an 11% move to get to the next fib level. So these are you can kind of see where my mind is at. I'm bullish going into this next month, into year end. And actually, it might not hurt to take a look at the yearly candles since that's about to close in 30 days. So let's take a look at that. So what would make the most sense for the SPY to end at? Maybe it taps 720 before end of year? Yeah, maybe we get up to 720-ish. That would put us up 5.6% in the month of December. For the Qs, I mean, we would have to get it's a 24% move. I don't think so. I think we probably just land somewhere inside of the arc for the Qs. And my tech thing here, it's not as clear or obvious. SMH, maybe like a 13% move. SMH getting to 400, that would be interesting. Maybe we tap that. Silver get up to $76 by the end of the year? Probably not. I think it probably stays between about 60, 54 to 60. Let's take a look at the silver. Yeah, like $56. I think that's about it for the year, and I think next year could be pretty crazy because you'll see here that we have this massive cup that's been going on since 2008. And actually, if you zoom out even more, it's actually a handle. Since 1979, we've been forming this cup and handle formation. And honestly, I'm eyeing a $300 silver. So you're still early, even if you feel like silver's ran a really long time. Now, I would exercise some caution because you're going to notice that the RSI on the monthly is at a level that when it gets there, that's usually a top for a period of time. However, because of this formation, I don't think it's going to triple top. I don't think so. I think it may need to bounce around a little bit. It's going to be tough to get through this arc. Maybe we got to build a base on top of this $45 level, maybe for a year before we make our big move. But I do think that it's entirely possible that we get like a real crazy move that brings us all the way up to $320 silver. And so, like, you know, if you were able to get to 100 ounces of silver, it costs you $50, $55 today. That's $5,500. But what's 100 times 320? 32 grand. So it's a big move, especially for something that is stable like a precious metal is. You know, silver is usually a little bit more volatile than gold. And let's take a look at gold. Gold tends to show a little bit more strength. You can see this similar cup and handle pattern, except this is actually, you know, broken that all-time high. I think a $5,000 silver is in the cards for next year. I really don't think that this slows down. I don't think this party really slows down. But who knows? 2030, we could be right back to these levels, maybe even down to 2,700. But the strength that gold has been having has been pretty impressive. Let's take a look at, I always like to take a look at healthcare because healthcare is, in my studies and my back tests, one of the best defensive sectors that you can do, where you can mix some healthcare into your portfolio and still have a strong returns. It doesn't seem to get in the way of your tech-like returns. It'll slow it down a little bit because the beta is a little bit less, but when there's drawdowns, it tends to do good or flat. And so having a little bit of healthcare, and I'm not talking HIMSS, I'm talking boring stuff. Eli Lilly, Johnson & Johnson, Novo Nordisk, you know, like that kind of stuff. It can be nice to have because take a look at this. This was the 2022 drawdown, and it was kind of just flat. So as you think we're getting closer to maybe the end of the bull, you know, oh, the bear market is coming, sell everything. Maybe instead of selling everything right then and there, maybe find some healthcare stocks that you like. Now, you'll see we closed this month outside of the Gann arc, which is great. I don't necessarily think that we are going to do much better than holding this line here over time. But before we hit that line, I think it's possible we get up to this 1.618 or 2.618, which should be a 20% return. Now, if I go 12 months out, though, and I think that this line holds, we're negative 6%. So I'm not like going to go all in on these stocks by any means. But, you know, if you go 3 years out, you'll get like a 16% return maybe. Those are my projections anyways. It's good to keep your eye on this stuff. A couple months ago was a great time to get into, you know, you think about it. The last few months, there's been a pretty big drawdown in the NASDAQ and in crypto. And if you would have bought healthcare stocks 3-4 months ago, you would have bought the bottom and you'd be up. You know, a portion of your holdings would be up like 20%. So sometimes it can be smart to buy some of this, but I kind of figure this next month there's going to be a run in tech and in high beta, and so you could see it come back and retest this 152 area. It might not be too green, but we'll see. All right, so those are the indexes. Let's take a look at Bitcoin because it's sort of like an index as well. We did have, I guess, this candle hasn't quite closed yet for the month. I would like to see a rally back up to about 96,000, but we only have about 4 hours left. Because this truly is a bit of a break of structure here. If I go to linear, you can see it's holding this 1.414 Fibonacci extension. So if we close above that, that's good news, but I would like to see a little bit more strength going into the monthly close. This is a megaphone pattern that I'm tracking though, and it could become like a pretty explosive move up. End of year, I don't have a lot of hope for crypto end of year. I know Tom Lee's been calling for a big rally, and I thought we were going to get our nuclear explosion up, Godzilla candles way, last year, the beginning of this year. I thought had to be soon, but we're not getting it. So who knows? Crypto's crazy. It's really hard to read the charts because it's just the moves are so obnoxious sometimes. But I would like to see Bitcoin get up into this, $150,000 to $220,000 range because it could stabilize inside of the arc. Let's take a look at Ethereum while we're at it. Ethereum bounced off the point of control last month. Also kind of struggling to stay within this megaphone pattern. I would exercise patience with this crypto stuff because it doesn't always move when you expect it to, and it certainly never moves like you think it will. This line right here, though, this Gann angle, I think it's pretty much good. And from this point, 12 months out, that's a 23% gain on Ethereum. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, I don't want to hold something that drops 50% every other month just for a 23% gain. That's fair, but try to have a long-term vision with these things, because you go out 36 months, it's a 340% gain. It's like a 4x on your money in 3 years, and that's a $13,000 Ethereum. Now, do I think that's going to happen a lot sooner? I do. I do think that it's going to happen a lot sooner. XRP is actually one of the more stable, and I do think that this gets into the Gann arc before it comes down and hits this. And I actually, do have my hopes that this thing comes up to this Gann angle and reclaims this Gann angle with some Godzilla candles. But for right now, it's been a pretty stable ride, ever since the November shoot up. All right, I'm jumping around a little bit, but I want to go back to stocks because that's probably what you guys are interested in. So let's take a look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA is at a pretty key level here. Let's see how it closed. Yeah, it closed right on the point of control and the 1.272 Fibonacci level. I almost sold some because it made it almost up to these Fibonacci levels, but it couldn't quite reach it, and then it slammed back down to this 178, 179 level. Is it a good buy right now? Let's take a look here, because I do think that this angle is going to be the long-term trajectory for this thing, because otherwise the market symmetry of this chart would be just so weird. I mean, if you take a look at chart here, it really, it was climbing this, and then it's been making its way back up to this angle here for years. Now, let's see here. Let's go 12 months out and see what we're working with. 22% gain in 12 months for NVIDIA from these prices. I would say that that's a good deal. Because NVIDIA it's a stalwart. It's not like you're buying Nebius, which I like, but it's not like you're buying, I don't know, like you're buying NVIDIA. It's the big dog of the stock market. If NVIDIA dies, the stock market dies. Like, that's how it is now. And so I feel a safety in buying NVIDIA similar to when I buy the S&P 500 or the NASDAQ or an index fund. So 20%, 22%, 12 months from these prices. Yeah, I feel pretty comfortable with that. SoFi. This thing has been, it's a beautiful chart. It's a beautiful chart. Look at this deleveraging that happened here. We retested the point of control, And actually, let's just see how far. Let's take this. Let's take this anchored volume profile and bring it all the way back. All time. Okay, that doesn't tell me. So maybe let's not do that. Let's bring this back to right here. Okay. That. I say higher. I say higher. I also say that we're going to follow this for the next year, barring any kind of recession or something like that. I do think that we are going to get some nice price appreciation. If you've been holding it for a long time, $39 to $43 is not a bad place to trim some. I think it's going to struggle to kind of get through this arc. But I would not bet against this company because the fundamentals are great. And so this is the first stock of my three that I say is an excellent buy in December. It's been an excellent buy. It's been an excellent buy for forever. I mean, some would argue back here it was an excellent buy, but you know, the 2023 year to 2024, the fundamentals were just up and to the right, and the stock chart was down and to the right, and it made no sense. I kept buying it. Eventually, I sold all my PayPal and put it in there. Then we had our big move up. I bought a little bit up top, and then when it came down, I bought a lot. I really went in because the whole stock market came down, and I saw that SoFi was just crushing it. And guess what? They're still crushing it. So SoFi, it's not a buy. I wouldn't consider Meta a buy. Maybe a Meta is a buy fundamentally, but technically it's kind of like Amazon is always a buy. Amazon is, to me, safer technically than almost any. This line right here has been pretty much done a good job of getting closer to the Gann angle, so it's almost a buy time again. Let's take a look 12 months out and see where this should be. I'm seeing about 15%. 15% from these prices in 12 months for Amazon. That's pretty good. Amazon is not a very volatile stock, and it's Amazon. So, I'd rather buy this than maybe Apple, for instance, if I'm looking to have an anchor in my portfolio, or whenever I'm looking to kind of de-risk, lower the beta of my portfolio. I like to see, where's Amazon in relation to this chart here. But Amazon looks great, and we could hit that 15% within the next 6 months. It doesn't necessarily have to be in 12 months, but that's my margin of safety. That's sort of, my minimum expectation of 12 months out. AMD has been freaking sweet. Absolutely freaking sweet. I actually think that here. Let me take a look at the weekly here. Just want to see. So the weekly has a gap. You can see right here, it has a gap, and that makes me nervous. But that gap makes me nervous. I'm not gonna lie. We might see $160 AMD again. So it's really hard for me to get a read on this one. Thankfully, I bought it, when it was like $100, $120. That's when I was buying it. So I'm up pretty substantially. There's really no reason why I can't get up to 300s, over the next few months. Whenever there's gaps in the weekly, it's worrying. CrowdStrike looks great. Strong chart. I mean, the RSI on the monthly is kind of coming down, which is a little bit concerning. And it's been a while since we've had a 50% drop. This thing loves to do that, so who knows? But this little Gann angle right here, let's just take a 12-month out peek. These prices, and CrowdStrike is a 20% from the current prices. So I think CrowdStrike's a buy just because cybersecurity is like it's not talked about, but it's essential, especially as AI gets stronger. So CrowdStrike is great. Shark Ninja, you bastard, Shark Ninja, you bastard. I thought I had my chart like this, and then it just said fuck your chart. Your chart's wrong. But it's still a very strong stock, and it's a buy. It's a buy, and it held this arc really well. This arc, I don't think it's getting touched again. This GAN level, $91. Maybe it gets touched again, but I think ultimately we're going to be holding this angle right, or this angle right here. And if I go 12 months out on this angle, we're up 50%. It's a $150 stock a year from today. And it could happen a lot quicker because a big part of this drop had nothing to do with their earnings. Like the earnings right here was incredible. They beat by 18% on those earnings. They beat by 26% on those earnings. And then the whole consumer discretionary sector sold off because the consumer's getting weak. Meanwhile, Shark Ninja's like, we're growing. I don't know what you're talking about. So the stock got cheaper, the fundamentals got better. I bought more. So right now, Shark Ninja is a top position of mine just because it just doesn't make sense. And the last time I invested in something because it just didn't make sense, it did great. SoFi doesn't always work that way. Right now, PayPal doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. The only reason why it does make sense is because its growth days are behind itself. Like it's like mega growth. Like those days are kind of numbered. It's a healthy business. It is kind of growing. It's already so big. So Shark Ninja, I like it, and I do think that we could get to $138, pretty quick. I could see it happening like right away because this whole area, I mean, look at all of this. Just look at the volume shelf on this. We have a lot of, support at that $90 level. So, yeah, I do think that Shark Ninja is going to have a pretty good run going forward, over the next 6 months or more. Shopify hit its all-time high, and it had some trouble breaking through. But once it does, there's a lot of people calling for a real good run out of Shopify. So I do like Shopify a lot. Is it a buy right now? I wouldn't go all in if you don't have a position already because, this GAN angle, you got to go, if you go 12 months out, you're negative. So I don't like buying when I see that. But you can very slowly DCA, just onesie, twosie, have with your extra money, maybe just slowly accumulate a position, but I wouldn't just like jump to be making it, a big position at these price levels. Tesla, it's all computer. We closed above the previous all-time high of $405. I guess it's not the previous all-time high, but high from 2021. We're building a base, essentially. We're building a base. And eventually, maybe we get to shoot to Mars, which is at $832. But before we do that, let's just take a look at the 12-month out. 12-month out, pretty much flat at 4%. So there could be some more pain in this name, but absolutely, Tesla's been climbing this GAN angle. It's been respecting my GAN pretty well. And this GAN angle, I mean, to give you an idea, if we just keep on, this thing might shoot up and then come down to it, shoot up and come down to it. If it continues along this pattern, in 10 years, we have an $8,500 Tesla stock. That is a 1,700% gain, 1,800% gain from here. So let's do 100 grand divided by 1,800. Or wait, 8,500. That means you need 11 shares to have 100 grand, and presumably 110 shares to have $1 million in 10 years. Not financial advice, but that's what my GAN says, and it could happen a lot sooner. Who knows? I mean, with the AI revolution and everything, we could have a parabolic move. It could get up there in a blink of an eye. Tesla's one of those stocks that you just don't know. So right now, is Tesla a buy? I think you got to have some, but it's not like a screaming buy by any means. But this one is. This is number 2. My number 2 best buy December. Zeta Global Holdings. Zeta's fundamentals are just crushing it. I love this stock. This is my next SoFi. I'm like positive that this is my next SoFi. Eventually, the market will get wise to this one, and it's entirely possible that we do not follow this GAN angle and that it just shoots up and we get back up on this GAN angle. You know, it could come up, it could break this, come back down, and then just go vertical. I really do think that we could see some crazy moves on Zeta one day. But even if we don't, let's take a look at the 12-month here. What kind of prices do I expect? Sugar-free soda. Can it hold this GAN angle? That's kind of my play here. We closed above the moving averages, which is great. $5.88, 120% higher from here. Only time will tell, but I have some shares of this. You know, it's definitely in the portfolio. So all those stocks, those are the stocks I would expect this thing to tap this. Micron. This is one of those that I really want some Micron. And this watch list that I have here, this is it layers the AI ecosystem. Once again, go take a look at that video. In that video, I talk about M1 Finance, which is a brokerage. You're able to build your own ETF, essentially. And I did this with all of the major players all across the chain. This is in between GAN angles. Although I think I drew this. Okay, let's take a look at Microsoft. That one's kind of extended away from the GAN angle, but what can you say? But it's hitting the GAN arc. This could be the top for Google. Constellation Energy, kind of strong chart, but the RSI is coming down, which I don't like to see. GE Vernova, struggling to get through this GAN arc. I think ultimately it's going to follow this angle right here. All right, let's take a look. We have looked at Bitcoin, ETH, and XRP. So if you have patience, you can make 50% in 2 years, but that's not why we're in crypto. And I really do think that this time will be different with XLM. I do think that we could get, but even if I'm wrong, XLM's not going anywhere. They have a lot of partnerships. You know, PYUSD runs on this blockchain. It uses a few blockchains, to be fair, but they do help to mint PYUSD, and they're working with MasterCard. I just don't think that it's going to get rejected ultimately. I think that you're going to have like it's going to get in, and then we're going to have our alt season, you know, and it's just going to explode higher. And I really do think that we are going to get, you know, like a $200 chain link, which is 20x from here. I do think I will see a $200 chain link, I think soon, but you know, even if what is a $200 chain link? That's a 1,600% gain. I mean, even if that takes 10 years or 8 years to get, that's better than you can get in the stock market. And if you don't know what Chainlink is, it is, and keep in mind these altcoins, they're highly correlated. So the fact that I see a GAN level right here tells me that a floor is probably nearby for Ethereum, Solana, XLM, XRP are going to want to be at about 70, and that is a 500% gain. Fibonacci extensions are telling me more like $160, $330, you know, $3.30. And that, my friends, is $2,000 gain. This is Mr. Wonderful's favorite crypto. He always talks about it. Algorand is also an ISO 22022 coin. Supposed to be going hog wild right now. I don't know why not, but sometimes they like to get you bearish before they send it moon. So I'm holding my Algorand. I don't have a ton of it, but you shouldn't have to have a lot of it if it's going to go to the moon, like they say, right? Solana, the chart is pretty much, I wouldn't say it's broken, but we're still in Gann jail. And I really do think that, we could come down to like a $75, $80 Solana again. I don't think we have to. I wouldn't wait for it. And I think what's more likely is this eventually reclaims this Gann angle here, maybe $170 by June, something like that. Let's take a look at Zcash. This thing just kept going. I kept watching it, didn't buy it, because I knew it would get me. But if you would have bought at any point last month, you're up. Brutal. But this handle looks pretty rough, if I'm being honest. And you got to beware, because take a look at Pyth. Pyth did this. That's what I'm seeing. So I see, SoFi, Zeta. Honestly, Nvidia looks okay right now to buy. Amazon looks safe. It always does. It always looks safe, to be honest. And I like Vertiv. I continue to like Vertiv. So those are my picks for the month. If there's a stock that you want me to take a look at, put it down below. And if you disagree with me, like maybe you're seeing something I'm not seeing, I would love for you to comment. Just comment something below. Let me know what you think. I hope you found this helpful. And until next time. Oh, before I go, there's a link down below for TradingView. This is the thing that I've been using to chart this. Thanks for staying this long. If you want to be able to chart things the way I chart things, I got a link below for you to take advantage of a referral code. So until next time, thank you for watching. Risky Ryan out.